It's time to move up to the second floor and get the doorway geometry ready for the second floor doors that are going to be up here. So based on the concept images, we know that there's a door here, there's a door here, and if we come at the other end of the hallway, there's a door there, there, and there. Okay? So some of the geometry is there for us and some isn't. For example, with this wall right there, we just have a wall. We don't have any geometry there to set up a doorway at the moment. So let's go ahead and let's fix that. Let's go ahead and let's take this edge on the top and that edge on the bottom there. Okay, we can see that there's sort of the little outline there for the doorway. And what we're going to do is simply right click, go to the connect tool. Let's go to the options again. And the neat thing about the connect tool is that it remembers the previous options you've been using in this session of 3ds Max. So it remembers that last time we did use 2 segments and we pinched to a value of 46, which is pretty good. So let's just keep those options and let's hit, instead of a OK, which would close the window and apply the action, let's just hit apply. Okay? And now you notice that it created these 2 connecting edges. That's because we have those edges selected, so it thinks that we're trying to make more connections. Don't worry, it didn't actually make the connections. See, if we deselect the edges, it removes the connections. So it's basically temporary. As long as this little window's open, any edits that you see here are temporary until you either hit OK or hit apply. Until then, as you can see, I can come in here and select any edges I want. It's going to create the connections, but it's just temporary. It's just showing me what it's going to look like. It's not the final result, even though it looks that way. So let me select the top edge of that doorway and the bottom edge. And you can see there it goes. It creates the connecting edges. Now if I deselect, I'm going to lose that edit. So make sure that before you deselect and move on, you hit apply. That keeps the window open and makes the edit on the geometry, as you can see right there. Okay, so now let me come over here and do this over here. Now over here we already have the geometry set up, at least for those vertical edges that we need for these 2 doors. But the door at the end of the hallway, right here on this wall, hasn't been set up yet. So let's select those 2 edges, and there we go. Now that we're done doing that, let's just hit OK to close the window and apply the action. There we go. Right, the next thing to do is to set up the height here for the doorways. So let's go ahead and let's do that. I'm going to go ahead and with edge mode selected, I'm going to select all of these edges here. It's basically all the edges in this hallway. Okay, and let me come over here and I'm going to select these 2 edges and then these 2 edges right there. Okay, and to be honest with you, I don't need this edge right here, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to deselect that edge, and I'm going to deselect, see if I can deselect that edge. There we go. Okay, so these are edges I have selected. Basically, I'm being kind of greedy. I want to go ahead and connect all the edges at the same time. Hopefully I won't run into any issues. Let me also deselect that edge there in the corner. I don't need that edge. And to deselect, what you do is you hold down Alt. Now with all these edges selected that I need for the doorways, let's go ahead, let's right click, let's go to connect. But we got to make sure we go to the options window first, because right now these options, 2 segments and a pinch value of 46, is not going to work. So what we're going to do is knock down the segments to 1, and the pinch value, let's just reset that to 0, and let's hit OK. Now that I have basically the geometry to create the top part of my doorways, you can see that it placed them in the middle of the doorways, which is no good. So let's just activate the move tool. Now we should be able to come in here with the transform type in tool and just type in for the Z value something else. We can also use the little arrow buttons right here to just interactively move this up and down, because obviously if we were to put in 7 feet, we were going to have a problem. You can see 7 feet is going to knock it all the way down there to 7 feet, which is no good. That's not going to work. So let me undo that. Control Z on the keyboard to do that. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, just freely move it into position about there is fine. I know it's not exact, but I'll worry about exact measurements a little bit later. Alright, so that's going to do it for the second floor hallways for the moment. Let's just take these polygons that we've created, which are going to be for the doorways, and let's go ahead and extrude those. Now let's extrude a different method. Instead of using the interactive extrude tool, let's go to the quad menu, and this time let's go to the options, the toolbox here, to open up the options window. Okay. Now we have different extrusion types that we can do. We can extrude by group, local normal, or by polygon. It's not really going to make a difference at the moment, simply because all the polygons are separate. Okay. But later on we'll get into situations where we're extruding polygons and these options are going to actually come into play. Right now can't really demonstrate them based on what we're doing, but we'll get to see that later. We're going to be modeling a lot of things during this tutorial, so don't worry about that. Alright, now the extrusion height, we can actually type in an exact extrusion height that we like, okay, if we know what the extrusion height's going to be. For example, maybe we can go to -1 foot, and you can see it's going to extrude it to -1 foot. Let's go ahead and do, just going to go ahead and type in -0 feet 8 inches. You can see how much it does it. It's not going to be exact, but that's no big deal. I'll go in and manually make that exact a little bit later. But I'm just going to leave it like that is fine for the moment. Okay, and again, you could just use the spinner right here to go ahead and interactively make the extrusion whatever you want it to be. Okay, alright, so actually I could come in here and just kind of eyeball that, and right there is pretty good. Just kind of eyeball that. There's no point in wasting time there trying to be exact, and the reason for that is it's not really about laziness, it's just about efficiency. You want to dedicate your time to important things and not mundane, unimportant things. In this case, that's what that is. Because there's going to be doors, when we finish this, there's going to be actual door models in front of the doorway that are going to be in the closed position. So no one is ever going to see that polygon back there. So what I'm trying to say, let's hit OK over here. What I'm trying to basically say is that no one's ever going to see this polygon that I have selected right there in the back of the doorway, ever. So if I have this over here or I have this right here, it's not going to make a difference. So if that doesn't make a difference, let alone does a small adjustment like this make a difference, or like this make a difference. It's not. No one's ever going to notice. So there's no point in wasting time trying to get that super precise if it's not going to make a difference in the final product, in the final work. Okay? So you don't want to waste time on mundane, irrelevant things like that. You want to spend and invest your time on important things, like making sure that other parts of this model are modeled correctly. For example, the floor, you have to make sure the floor is the correct exact height or elevation, things like that. Okay, so that's going to do it for the second floor doorways. I'm going to say that I'm pretty much done, at least for the moment. I'm going to end this video here, and in the next one we're going to go ahead and continue working with doors.